Well, we're here this afternoon really to talk about Dilworth Plaza. There's some proposals out there for modifying it, and clearly there are a lot of issues with Dilworth Plaza. We're just beginning a discussion about what are those issues and how should this whole process move forward. I think one concern or one issue we have is this should be a really open process that involves all the stakeholders, the preservation community, and everybody really with a stake in the area, because it's a very important space. It's a key link into the transit system. It's a key connection of the transit system to the surrounding office area, and I think it really requires a lot of deep discussion about what are the issues and what are the principles for any designs that move forward.
And one reason we wanted to do a video for Plan Philly was that not everybody is familiar with the plaza. John walks through the concourse to the open space behind us every day on the way to his office. I've lived in Center City for 28 years, and I can't remember the last time I set foot in the north part of the plaza. So many of us live around here, work around here, and it's not a space that's familiar to us all, and there are some huge changes being proposed that we want people to think about.
How you make this connection between the upper level, the street plaza level, and the concourse below. In a way, that was the key element of Dilworth Plaza as it was designed originally. This big open area that really brought light and natural environment down into the lower level. And that to some extent works passably well in areas and doesn't work well in other areas. The major sunken plaza is on the axis of Municipal Services Building. That was an important design consideration when it was designed. You can see the axis directly on the entrance, which is a counterpoint to the axis on Market Street through to the City Hall portal. I think one of those things, that's something that really needs to be taken into account as we move forward in the design.
This hasn't been a terrifically successful space so far. There have been real programming problems with it. But a friend of ours who's an architect and a planner said, we're too quick to throw things away. Think of the embodied energy in this plan. And you look at the materials here, we're not going to get these materials today, this kind of granite. We're certainly not going to get materials like City Hall. Part of what we're talking about here is this building that we may take for granted, but is just a phenomenal building. It has elephants on it, for crying out loud, and men and maidens and all sorts of wonderful, solid materials meant to last our lifetimes and many more. So we need to think about the things that we're throwing away. We're not saying that this is necessary to save this particular part of the plan, but what's missing so far is a public process here, where design professionals and the general public can look at the plaza and say, what would be the best thing to do with this? It's in sorry condition. What would be the best thing to do here?
I think it's not just looking at it, it's looking as a whole, but also looking at the various pieces. There's the northern piece, the big sunken area. There's this central open court on the axis of Market Street. And then there's the southern portion, which is really the most problematic portion, which is a lot of sunken levels, raised levels, and it's very difficult to understand how to move through it. It has become the area a sort of centre for the homeless population. But I think a key issue is how you make that connection between the plaza level and the lower level. Clearly the original design had these number of openings that brought daylight down to the lower level. They weren't glazed over and entirely open. What the new plan proposes to do actually is close all those off and really replace them with these large glass head houses along 15th Street, which would bring light down into the concourse. So I think that's very important. But our concern is that those will begin to sort of wall off the plaza from 15th Street. To us, the plaza should really be a forecourt for City Hall, much in the way that Trafalgar Square is perhaps the forecourt to the National Gallery in London. Something that's open to the street, celebrates the presence on 15th Street. I think the last thing we want to do is begin to wall it off with glazed enclosures. And though everybody says, well, they can be clear glass enclosures, you can see through them. Clearly that's not the case at night, because they'll be illuminated. Clearly they have their own, there'll be people in them, there'll be stairs in them, etc. And one of them's proposed to be a building as well. So this should be probably as open as possible. In fact, continuing the openness around the rest of the facades of City Hall, which do have sidewalks right up the street, removing some of these deteriorated planting areas along the street, which really do separate the sidewalk from the street, and the raised curbs, which again create the separation between the plaza and the street. And even if you have a raised area plaza, the idea would be to keep it at the street elevation around the perimeter and step up where it would be appropriate.
I think the issue of the head houses is a huge one. They're going to be the height of a 3-story row house. They're going to be 100 feet long. And even if they're set apart so that you can still, so that the axis of Market Street goes through, I just walked down Market Street coming here. And as you walk through, and most of the buildings you go through are very vertical. Well, City Hall is very long, and as you come through, it's revealed to you, bit by bit by bit. And that would be lost with the head houses. We're just wondering what the head houses give to, what these buildings give to the public, what they actually offer. They're going to be, they have to be very tall so that people can't climb on them. If you were on Broad Street after the World Series, you know how much people can climb on things. They're very tall. They're proposed to have, grass green roofs, which is, this is a very solid landscape we have here. And now you're having something proposed that's basically nothing under plants and grass and earthworms and whatever else up there that doesn't match with the logic of the rest of the site. So we think that the notion of putting buildings at all in this courtyard is very questionable when you can accomplish what the buildings are doing by making openings in the plaza and not blocking any views.
We're not just 15th Street buildings, there's also a building proposed
Right.
for the northern end, which actually pretty well block that axis towards Municipal Services Building, completely eliminate the whole axial plan. So I think that's another concern as well.